Welcome to Smart Women Talk. This is your host, Katana Abbott. I'm a midlife millionaire coach and a certified financial planner, and I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors and thought leaders who are on that leading edge. So join us for conversations on money, business, health, and inspiration, so you can live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. This is Katana Abbott, and I want to welcome you all to Smart Women Talk. For years, there's been this ongoing controversy about what we should be eating. There's all kinds of diets, and many of us, it can cause a lot of confusion around food. There's even been some interesting Netflix series that are getting the attention of the general public. One of my favorites is The Blue Zones, Living to 100 Years. Netflix did a 3-part series called The Twin Study, You Are What You Eat. And then one of my favorite YouTube channels is Plant Shoppers with Chris McCaskill. And he is a Stanford-educated scientist with a quest for research. He compares all these influencers, doctors, and scientists with all these different diets to see how long they live. So it's all about longevity, and it's pretty interesting what you'll find out. So there's 3 different parts to it. So we're doing this today with some of my friends. All of us have tried different diets. There's diets like Eat Right for Your Blood Type, the fasting diet, the alkaline diet, the Atkins diet, the Mediterranean, and it's just overwhelming. So I thought, why don't I invite 3 of my dear friends here to have a conversation about what they eat, why they eat it. Remember, none of us are nutritionalists or doctors. We are just trying to figure this out like you are. So I'm so excited to have everyone here. All are healthy, over 60. You all look younger than your age. You have created encore careers that you're passionate about, so you never have to retire. So staying healthy is really important. We've got Marla Pennington. Marla is a star real estate agent with Coldwell Bankers in Memphis. Marla of Memphis. Welcome. Joanna Klein, and you are the founder of Journey to Legacy.
Hi, Katana.
Hi, Joanna. And you're out in California. And then we've got Colleen, who's my neighbor, and she's the author of Eliminate What You Tolerate.
Hi, everybody.
And she's also the special guest host for this show, Smart Women Talk. And today she is joining as one of our panelists. Welcome, ladies. I'm just so excited to talk with you because we've all been meeting together like this anyway in the Midlife Millionaire Solution Program for 2 years. We've had our monthly mastermind. And so it's fun to get together. There's a few others that have been in the group, but it's so much fun to see you all again today. And I just wanted to mention that all of you have these great careers that some of you have launched them in your 3rd act. That's when you're over 60 and you are planning on taking this career, who knows, into your 70s, 80s, but you want to stay healthy. And that's why I thought you would be a perfect group to ask, because I know you're all concerned about your health, but all of us here eat a little bit differently. So let's start with Marla. And Marla, I wanted to start with you because you grew up on a farm, and I wanted to find out, how did that influence you and how does it influence you today?
It influenced me tremendously and continues to today. So I grew up on a farm in eastern New Mexico, and we raised our own beef, our own chickens, our own pork, and we ate it. I'd visit the slaughterhouse with my granddaddy. I'd visit the stockyards with my granddaddy when I was growing up, the auction house at the stockyards. I'd pick the chickens when I was really little that we wanted for dinner. I'd watch my granddaddy pop their heads off, and my grandmother would have a big pot of hot water, and she'd push them in, pluck the feathers off, and then clean them and cut them up and fry them in lard, which actually is far healthier than any of the seed oils that you see on the market today. So we had a huge garden that was so big, it fed so many families that it was actually plowed. We didn't go out and pull the weeds by hand. We'd plow everything. And then all summer long, we would can and freeze. And most of the canning was kept in the basement of my grandparents' house, which had shelves and shelves for canned goods. and quite a few freezers. I guess they had backup generators. I don't know, but we had probably 4 freezers full of meat that we had beef from animals we had grown. So I grew up eating a lot of really healthy stuff that was still carnivore. I'm still carnivore to the day. I don't really eat humongous portions. I so it's just stayed with me, and I eat a lot. We did not drink alcohol, and I definitely drink alcohol. So that's probably the big difference. Oh, and I drink greens every day. I don't sell this, but this is what I drink for about 30 years, and my mother about 40. And all of my family lives to be a pretty old age.
Yeah, so that's real interesting. So tell us about your mother. So she was this one who was doing the farming and the canning.
Mhm.
So tell us about, she's living quite a long time, but she's super healthy, and both of you walk. I wanted you to share because I think it's not just eating. It's the study from the Blue Zones talked about this lifetime physical labor, being active, up and down, grinding, cooking, not just opening something up and throwing it in the
Yeah.
microwave.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a morning walker. My mom is a morning walker. I think my average is about 3.7 miles a day. It's probably about hers still. She turned 86 this week. Her husband is 15 years younger than her. My dad turns 81 this year. His wife is 15 or 17 years younger than him, active playing golf. My dad and his wife are actually both cancer survivors, but they're still pretty active. My mom has hardly been sick a day in her life, honestly. She has an incredible immune system. She has very strong bones and a really good core. She has a strong, solid core.
One last thing about this. Do you happen to be a O blood? Because O blood is the meat eater.
I think I am because I have to have protein, and I really have to have meat. I can only eat so many protein bars or protein shakes. I really have to. Yes, I am O. I'm O positive now that I think about it, because I had them tested during COVID. I wanted to know, because isn't O the one that was more immune to COVID? That was mine.
Oh, wow.
One of them was. That's what I am.
Wow. Brilliant.
Mhm.
Brilliant. Okay. So again, we are not doctors. We're not nutritionists. We are just consumers like everyone, most people listening to the show, watching the show today. We just want to share how we're eating and what we've learned.
I have blood work done pretty consistently too. So I know that my cholesterol's in check and all of that other stuff.
Fantastic. I love the idea of walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one last question about the meat. Are you eating a special kind of meat? Because you hear about the grass fed. Do you try to get grass fed or organic?
I eat a lot more meat during grilling season, which really is most of the year here in Memphis. But usually I only eat like prime beef. Dawn and I don't care so much for grass-fed beef. I'll eat it if I mix hamburger meat and something. I really don't eat hamburgers. I'll eat some Wagyu beef in a burger if I like that. We eat mostly fillets and strips. A New York strip will be 3 meals for me. The potato that goes with it will be at least 2, possibly 3. But we eat prime cuts, and we really can splurge on that because we don't hardly ever buy processed food. I just don't buy it.
Yep. So that's good. Okay. So I'm taking some notes here. This is good to know. And so next, Joanna, I would like to go to you because I know you have a different way of eating. And why don't you share that with us?
Sure. So I grew up in Virginia, and with a mom who was always very weight conscious, and she exercised regularly. She was a simple cook. She didn't do fancy cooking, but it was always a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. And usually the vegetables were canned, so I hated vegetables when I was a kid. And then I moved out to California after college and got introduced to a whole different lifestyle there with fresh vegetables. And I remember the first time I had artichoke, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And so really fell in love with the possibilities of vegetables. Met a friend who was an incredible cook, and so she taught me some things. And so my diet started to change, but I was mostly concerned with what I ate because of my weight. It wasn't about my health. It was more that I was worried when I went to college, I gained the pounds that often people do when they go to college, except I think I added a few more to that. And so I wanted to keep my weight down. And so then I became very conscious of what I was eating, but more for those purposes. And so I still had quite a bit of starch, I would say. I remember eating those rice cakes a lot, thinking that was a healthy snack for me. And I always had like carrots and celery, and never was like absolute about any one thing, but avoided maybe cheese or heavy kind of pastas with cheeses and stuff. But always had a sweet tooth. And then when I hit menopause is when things started to change. And I started looking for solutions for my menopause symptoms. And I met with a dietitian who was able to determine, and I had a blood test that confirmed it, that I had a lot of candida in my system. And so she prescribed a whole new diet for me that was a candida diet. And that meant cutting out sugars and carbohydrates. And it was a very strict diet that I went on for 3 months, and I started feeling differently. And so that was the first sign for me of how food can have an impact on actually how I was feeling. And I didn't even realize how much it was weighing me down, how much my gut was impacted, and my energy level. And it was at that point then that I started to become more aware. And interestingly enough, then the people I started to hang around with were also more conscious of that. And I found myself gravitating to those who were more knowledgeable, and friends who were gluten-free, dairy-free, and that started to have an impact on me. And so I started trying different things, and throughout my life have tried like the Atkins diet when I wanted to lose weight, the keto diet, the Mediterranean diet, but no specific diet has worked for me. More recently, over the last couple of years, I've done plant-based more so, but I've never been one who's been absolute on anything. If I want something, like if I'm really having an urge for an ice cream cone, I'll go do that. And at the same time, if I go shopping, most of the time, if I'm going to get dessert, which I rarely purchase because if I have it in the house, I eat it. That instead of going for milk-based ice cream, I'll go for like a coconut, something made with coconut or almond milk or some other alternative. So I do, in addition to plant-based, try to do gluten-free. But I will do fish. I definitely do fish, and every now and then chicken, and every now and then meat. So again, not absolute, but I listen to my body and let that be my guide.
Wonderful. So if you go to someone's house and let's say that the meal is a big lasagna, which is cheese and meat and the gluten, and let's say they do have a salad and vegetable. Will you eat that, or would you just eat the salad and vegetable? And have you found ways to do it where it doesn't offend people?
I do eat that. I never say I'm not going to eat that. I'll just get a smaller piece and have the salad and vegetable be bigger. But what's interesting is it's rare for that to happen, because it turns out that my community eats like I do. Yeah. And it's not that it never happens, but it's just more and more. I'm with a group of women. We meet once a month for dinner. We call ourselves the Diva Dinner. And everybody brings something, and we have the most incredible dishes. And they're pretty much, in order to honor everyone's dietary needs, we pretty much are doing a plant-based dinner each time for all the different appetizers, main and dessert. And everything's just delicious. So I get an opportunity to get recipes from my community as well.
Yeah, but diva dinners, that sounds great. And it's interesting how so many people are going more plant-based, and you live where all the beautiful vegetables are grown as well, out in California, the fruits, the vegetables. And so
I do. We have farmers markets like everywhere, like all throughout the cities where I live. But interestingly enough, because I get so involved in my work that I don't end up going there. And so I have a box delivered of fresh vegetables and fruits. And so I came yesterday, like every 2 weeks, it'll have, like yesterday it had blueberries and sweet potatoes and kale and red leaf lettuce and just It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous box that I get delivered to my house. So I'm very fortunate to have that.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you. So Colleen, now we get to talk to you. So you've been listening to Marla and to Joanna. Tell us a little bit about the way you eat. I've eaten at your house a few times and it's been very delicious food. And I'm wondering what's different? What have you found that you resonate best with?
Yeah, that's a good question because it sounds like for all of us, we've tried trial and error, different things. Other than Marla, you've been probably pretty consistent throughout your life. But I've always had challenges with low blood sugar from the time I was a kid. And I tried to be vegetarian as a young woman, but it seemed to only exacerbate my blood sugar levels. I never got enough protein to have stable blood sugars. They were always up and down, which is not fun. I had heart surgery about 7 years ago for a valve problem. And I said to the doctor afterwards, I said, "Hey, doc, what can I do to be on the fast track to healing?" And this is a cardiologist, cardiac surgeon. He said, "Walk and eat meat." And I was so surprised to hear that from a cardiologist. And it turns out that when I went in for cardio rehab and I had to fill out a form about my diet from the American Heart Association, I failed that test. And the reason I failed it is because I do pretty much everything opposite of what they suggest. For instance, I don't eat low-fat dairy. I eat high-fat dairy. I eat butter. I don't eat the seed oils Marla mentioned. And American Heart Association talks about you can eat seed oils. A lot of things that they mention, I don't cut down on fat. I eat a lot of fat, but I eat good fat. And when I eat meat, I eat good cuts of meat, grass-fed and finished if I can. I'm not a huge meat eater, but I try to eat that kind of meat. I'm a huge advocate of bone broth. So I make bone broth every single week. And I either keep it as bone broth and just drink it like that, which I adore, or I make it into soup. So I pretty much have a fresh pot of bone broth or soup going all the time for the collagen and all the other things in it. I remember reading a book, The Red Door, has nothing to do with food, but if any of you have read it, from biblical times or pre-biblical times, when anybody ever got sick in the tribe of people, they always went and made bone broth for the person, because of what comes out of the bone when you boil it. So I think bone broth is like God's gift to the world. I love it. But I eat mostly organic and a lot of vegetables and less fruit, no grains, don't eat grains, and meat and fish, olives, avocados, high fat things, a lot of the same things. And about going out to eat or to someone's house, I am not paranoid about what I eat. So I went to Christmas dinner and there was lasagna and vegetables and salad. And I did what Joanna did. I just got a little piece of lasagna and a lot more of the vegetables and salad, and that works well. So I've tried different things throughout the years, but that's what I settled in on now.
Wow. So that's interesting. Now you're the first one to mention organic and non-GMO, because to me, that's extremely important. So how do you go about when I don't like even going out to restaurants anymore. Like we're going to go to Zerbo's tonight and you just don't know, are they using the GMO seed oils? From what I understand, almost 100% of our canola oil is genetically modified and it comes from Canada. That's just what I read. And so I try to avoid that. And you can look at labels and you can actually see the word organic in organic, let's say olive oil or organic avocado oil, for example. So we try to do packaged food if we buy packaged food or oils that are organic. So how do you work with that? And my other question, because we want to talk a little bit about where you shop and that, how the heck do you get organic bones to make bone broth out of? Because I've bought the Kroger brand that they have the simple organic label. And I don't know if it says everything's organic. And if you read it, it says organic. But how would you just happen to get the organic bones? Do you have a farmer or can you ask the grocery store?
No, I buy very little in a grocery store. So I buy organic vegetables in the grocery store. That's pretty much it. Sometimes organic fruit. And I buy goat's milk there because they happen to carry the goat milk that I can get in health food store. But that's it. I don't go into the center aisles. Every now and then, maybe some canned tomatoes or canned beans if I'm making something quickly, but usually I cook all that from scratch. But yes, I go directly to the farmer. I vet the farmer. I go to the farmer's market where he hangs out and I buy a big bag of soup bones from him and then different cuts of meat directly from him. I know he has grass-fed and grass-finished beef. And I know what Marla's saying about that being different than non-grass-fed because it has less fat in it. Probably that's the main difference. But I buy my oils from a family in Greece. It's all organic from old stock, old plants that haven't been hybridized. They're thousands of years old. Get my butter from a farmer. I get a lot of things directly from farmers and very little from the grocery store. Or I go to a health food store and get organic produce from them. I don't go out to eat a lot. I used to eat out more, but now I'm a little more stringent. So I make most of my meals at home. But I did go to Sylvan Table last night and had a great meal. Farm to table restaurant. Very good.
Yeah, so we're neighbors. So I'm going to go with you to the farmer's market.
Yeah, great farmer. Very dedicated to their cattle and the beef that they create.
Oh, that's fun. That's really fun. So does anyone want to share who or what had the biggest influence on you during your lifetime or even recently about how you eat or what you eat?
I will chime in. My mom, for sure. She always made things from scratch, but on weekends we could eat junk food. So I remember having Captain Crunch on Saturdays or SpaghettiOs in the evening when she and my dad went out for a date. But she went to see a lecturer, Adele Davis, who was a big nutritionist back in the 70s. She wrote a book called Feed Your Children Right, I think it was called. And after she read that book and went to her lecture, everything changed. She didn't bring home cold cereal anymore. It was all healthy with no junk food in the house. And she really taught me and my sister and my siblings well about eating as close to the earth as you can. Not manufactured food.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Cooking from scratch. I do that every single day myself.
I know you do. You're amazing.
So I wanted to mention there was a show I did probably 18 months ago, and it was about a Farmer Jones farm. And I think they're in Ohio, but it's a regenerative farm and they do non-GMO. And they were shipping directly really beautiful, organic, gorgeous vegetables all over the world. And COVID hit. And when COVID hit, the restaurant shut down. So they started home delivery. So now if you go to their website, you can actually order a box of produce, like the best of the season, and it's shipped to your house. And when the last time I did it, beautiful greens and in the wintertime, you're getting little tiny baby, the most beautiful radishes you've ever seen, and multicolored carrots and these gorgeous potatoes. So I guess they can still be pulling those. It's right on the coast of Lake Erie, which is a huge farming area, and it's pretty temperate there. So they're pulling vegetables year round, but they also sent microgreens and edible flowers. So has anyone done anything like this to get really super fresh stuff from a farm like that that's actually very pretty to work with, not only good for you?
I really don't. I get most of my food from Trader Joe's. There used to be a farmer nearby. I got all my eggs and milk from him. So I had non-pasteurized milk and I had true pasture raised hens. But then he retired and moved away and I quit drinking milk anyway. I drink a lot of ham and I eat a lot of full fat cheeses. I eat a lot of olive oil, mostly Moroccan olive oil. But let's see, what did you just say? Oh, I don't organically source a lot of things. I'll buy just organics at Trader Joe's. And I do try to buy non-GMO.
Yeah.
I really have to be careful about that.
Is there something more that you want to be adding to your diet or anything else that you want to change that you're having a hard time with, for example?
I probably eat too much late at night, and I do have a sweet tooth like Joanna, so I have to be careful. I'll try to buy that chocolate with stevia in it. That seems to satisfy my sweet tooth mostly. I used to eat more ice cream when I had the kids around. That's the only time I've ever had cereal. I didn't grow up on cereal. They ate it. So the first time I ever had a cinnamon toast crunch, I think it was when I had twins, and they said they wanted some. Their friends had some. So I was in my 30s, and I thought, oh my gosh, these kids are eating dessert for breakfast. It was just like a sweet.
Because you didn't grow
So
up. Yeah.
yeah. So my kids do not eat as well as I do mostly, I have to say. That's their choice.
But it sounds like even though you are eating meat, you're not eating processed food.
I don't buy processed meat at the grocery. I don't buy loaves of bread, very little grains. Every now and then, like for Super Bowl, I bought some dip and some organic pretzel chips, and I love it. Like I could just eat the whole thing. It's so delicious. I can see how it's like addictive, but normally that's not in my house. If I have canned foods, it's stuff like for maybe a taco soup or something like that, where I have to, something you can put together quickly if I don't have enough room in my freezer. And I just have one smaller freezer. But
Yeah, good, good. So one of the things that Marla mentioned, I suggested that seeing the twins Netflix series, which is You Are What You Eat. And the one comment you made to me, do you remember what it was? I said, how did that affect you?
you mean the comment about the wine?
No,
Now
about
that was in the blue zone.
no, the twins series. And I remember what you said is that, oh, I might re-examine my meat eating. And
Oh yeah.
what I thought was interesting, and I want you to share what I thought was interesting with that film. I had a computer guy here at the house. He said the same thing after watching that. I never said a word. I just asked him if he had seen that because we had just watched it. And so when you have the masses watching a film like that, it wasn't just about, they split the twins. So one ate omnivore, one ate vegan. It wasn't just about that. They put in little snippets about the farming industry, the commercial farming industry,
Right.
which is nothing like what you grew up with, Marla. It's with the feedlots and with the hog farms and the pollution that it causes, especially to local people, and the poor chicken farmer that just couldn't take it anymore with the chickens, how
Yeah.
unhealthy they were. And he started
Yeah.
growing mushrooms instead. And now they have those mushrooms at Costco. They're all these gorgeous
Mhm.
looking, crazy looking mushrooms. So that was the one thing is I was going to ask is for everybody here, how you're eating, your idea of the planet and animals themselves. Does that have any effect on your eating?
I will say, and I remember very well the first commercial feedlot I ever drove by because I had been around a lot of feedlots, and it was on the road to Texas, in Texas, away from everything. And of course, you could smell it miles away driving up, and it was just awful. It's still there, it's bigger, it is awful. Commercial, the way they grow commercial is really terrible. And I have thought about that. And I was thinking, I really haven't eaten much meat in the last few weeks. I've made a lot of vegetarian soups, and I have a great big thing of ratatouille right now in my with organic vegetables that I made the other day. But I did become more cognizant, and I noticed when I was driving to our Mississippi office, I saw a farm. I took a different route and I saw a farm that raises its own Angus beef. And I thought, ooh, I'm going to stop there next time and talk to them. And they also have their own honey. They have their own bees and honey. And I have bought local honey before from where they collect it. But I think I'm going to check out the meat there. I just can't eat any kind of chicken that's been raised commercially, and I eat pasture raised uh, for the eggs
Oh, yeah. Makes
because
such a
it's just gross. And I know that some of that meat that I've eaten from Costco has been on those feedlots. And honestly, I know it's bad for you. It probably makes you obviously not live as long, but really your heart goes out to the animals. I don't think about, oh, if I eat this, I'm not going to live to be 100. I think if I eat this, what it was like for that poor cow.
Marla, thanks for sharing that. There is another Netflix film called Cowspiracy that was out several years ago. And And that and they mentioned it in the twin study on Netflix too. And they mentioned that there is simply, because of our meat consumption has gotten so high around the entire planet, there is not enough land. If we got rid of all the houses and all the buildings and we use the entire planet for farming, we'd need that much to feed the cattle. And that there is very few wild animals left. If you look at domesticated animals for farming and pets, there's just not that many wild animals left. We're going to have to make some major changes to our eating habits, and the actual methane coming from the cows is more than all, for pollution wise, for the global warming, than all the transportation vehicles added up. That was another thing they popped into that film. So I think it's interesting. They're starting to put these ideas out there to us in movies that we happen to be watching. And so I think that's going to help change the consciousness of people so that we start thinking a little differently. Anybody else have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's really important for social reasons. My partner has been a vegetarian for that particular reason, that it's not so much about the diet as much as the social reasons. So he's made those choices. And we eat organic. Just to answer your question that you asked back. I mean, organic's always been, well, since I have become aware. I think for me, the big change was with meeting with a nutritionist who started steering me in that direction. But then I became aware how important organic is and sensitive to. I can even taste now. If it's not organic, I am more sensitive to the pesticides that I can pick up that might be particularly in some of the more porous vegetables like celery. They can taste it in there.
Yeah, really great. So Colleen, did you want to add anything? Because we're ready to wrap our beautiful show up here.
The only thing I would add, I don't have children of my own, but I have cooked around children who are not used to things being cooked from scratch. And it seems like in a very short period of time in our history, the next generation has lost a lot of the old ways of eating. And I just think it's something to think about, passing the skills of our grandmothers, great grandmothers, our mothers on to the next generation. But the little girl I was cooking in front of, she was probably 6 or 7 at the time. I was making turkey bone broth. So it was a day after Thanksgiving. I put the carcass in a big pot with vegetables and whatnot. And she said, "What are you doing?" Seeing me put that carcass in there. And I said, "I'm making chicken broth," is what I told her. And she said, "That's not how my mom makes it." And I said, "How does your mom make it?" She says, "She goes to the cupboard and pulls out a can of chicken broth." Like, you dummy. And I said, "Where do you think that chicken broth that's in the can came from?" And she said, "She went to McDonald's and got some chicken McNuggets and put them in water." They've so disconnected from the source of food. And I love the concept of teaching kids where the honey comes from and where the vegetables come from and where the chicken comes from, because it just doesn't show up in a package in cellophane in the store. It had a journey. And a lot of times, as you all have pointed out, that journey was a sad journey for the animals. So I think it's good to teach this from a young age, that the source of our food is really important.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks so much, Colleen. And thank you, all of you ladies. I appreciate you all being here today to share your ideas and to share your personal stories and why you eat, what you do, and how you found that on your journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Katana.
Thanks for the opportunity. Good to see you, ladies.
All righty. So everyone, thank you for being here today. If you'd like to get on our list, it's joinsmartwomen.com. And when you come there, you will be part of our community. You're going to get our newsletter. You'll know who's on the show, lots of free gifts. You'll be invited to the Smart Women Academy. When you watch the shows, please like us, subscribe, and share. We really appreciate it. So until our next show, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Smart Women Talk is brought to you by Smart Women's Empowerment, a 501c3 nonprofit project of United Charitable. Music by Bill Lucas from his album When It Rains. Available on Apple Music and Spotify. Catch us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and be sure to join our free community at joinsmartwomen.com to access all our free Smart Women resources.